What's up, YouTube? Tim Moose here. Now, since I'm doing my reviews for Steven Spielberg films because of The Fablemans, here's my review for the other film he did in 2002. Now, in 2002 was an interesting year. Like, he, of course, did Minority Report, which came out a couple months prior there. But also in 2002, he also put out the true story crime film, Catch Me If You Can, which, of course, had Leo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, a very young Amy Adams at the time. Now, if you guys don't know much about the story here, it's with like Frank Agnell Jr. played by DiCaprio, who worked as like a doctor, a lawyer, and as a co-pilot for a major airline, all before his 18th birthday. And he is a master of deception, and he was also a brilliant forger whose skills also gave him his first real claim to fame. And so, like at age 17, Frank became the most successful bank robber in the history of the U.S. And so you have FBI agent Carl Henretti, played by Tom Hanks, who makes it his prime mission to capture Frank and bring him to justice here. Um, but of course, Frank is always one step ahead. I mean, of course, seeing both Leo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks together, I thought was really a dream to check out. Of course, you had Christopher Walken, who plays like the father of Frank. I believe Christopher Walken actually scored an Oscar nomination. I don't think he won it, but I remember he did score a nomination here. You also had Martin Sheen, who plays like an attorney. James Brolin was also in this. A very young Amy Adams. This was actually, I believe, this was like Amy Adams' first major role. If I'm not mistaken, she probably did this up beforehand, but I believe like this was her first big break of stardom. Of course, she'd go on to do stuff like Man of Steel, Enchanted, and stuff. So just seeing her pretty young here at the time, I thought was really cool to see. Of course, the writing by it was of course scripted by Jeff Navasan. Scored a couple of Oscar nominations. Let me pull up how much. And of course, the score by John Williams, because you can't have Spielberg movies without John Williams music. Come on, people. Of course, it did score. Christopher Walken, of course, scored Best Supporting Actor nomination. It got nominated for Best Original Score. It didn't really get much nominations here. A little surprised there, but this movie is still really treating great performances by DiCaprio. Of course, Leo DiCaprio, let's be real, he has worked with some of the best directors, from Martin Scorsese to Spielberg to Nolan, to Alejandro D. Inarritu. I mean, talk about a cool career DiCaprio has. That shows how that really proves that Leo DiCaprio is by far one of the best actors in the business. Like the guy, I mean, do work with James Cameron. The guy's worked with some of the best top notch directors out there, and that's how great an actor DiCaprio is. But Catch Me If You Can is a really drink film. It's very funny. It gets pretty dark at time. I, I remember like I never really knew too much about the true story about this film when I first saw this, but I was like, man, I cannot believe that this actually happened. The film is also based on a story, I believe, like a book, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's based on a story that was actually written by Frank Agnell Jr. So that's interesting there too. So yeah, if you guys have never really seen Catch Me If You Can, it's not my favorite Spielberg film, nothing like that, but it is really intriguing. It shows how great Spielberg could be. Whether like he could go from doing sci-fi films like E.T., Jurassic Park, to doing these Oscar caliber movies like Catch Me If You Can or even Lincoln and all. That's proves how much of a great director. Yeah, that shows how much a great director he is. So yeah, if you guys never really seen Catch Me If You Can, do yourself a favor. Not sure we can find it nowadays. You can find it on Paramount Plus. You can rent it on Apple TV, Prime Video. Give it a go is really trying. Anyway, let me let you guys. Have you ever seen Catch Me If You Can? If so, what's up? Were you a fan? Are you not a fan of it? Favorite scenes, favorite moments? Where would it rank in your favorite Spielberg films? Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Simon signing off.